I'm Coach Todd, head coach on NoLimitsTriathlon.com, and welcome to this video. What we're going to do is I'm going to talk to you about how to train for a triathlon. Now, congratulations for wanting to try a triathlon. I mean, I too was once in your shoes many years ago. It's hard to believe. I was trying to do the math today, and it's been almost 25 years since I did my first triathlon. And it really is crazy. So I'm assuming that since you're watching this video, you too you're in the same place I was 25 years ago where you're thinking about, you know what? I think I want to try to do a triathlon. Now, this whole video series is going to be like a 9-part video series, which sounds kind of crazy, and it could be. I'm not sure how it's going to work out. But when I was first thinking about doing my first triathlon, it took me probably 3 or 4 years to actually do one. And so I was in university at the time, and I would walk by the pool that I'd see people swimming, and I'd see this poster up. And it was for the university triathlon that was held every spring. And I would look at it and go, oh, there was something that would just kind of capture my attention and my interest. And I'd go, you know what? I think I'd like to do that, but I never did. I just didn't have the guts to do it, or to sign that paper to say, you know what, I'm going to do it, or say I'm going to commit to training. There's always something that came up. And this video series, to me, is very similar to doing my first triathlon. This has probably been maybe 2 or 3 years in the works. Like I'd write stuff out and then I would never do it. And so it's kind of, this is very similar to doing my first triathlon, because it took me so long to actually say I'm doing it. So today is the day that I'm doing it, and hopefully after watching these videos you say, you know what, this is the year, or this is the day, this is the month, I'm going to sign up for that triathlon, because I'm so happy that I did way back when, and it really changed my life. And I believe that if you do a triathlon, it will be changing your life too, and it's really quite powerful and quite amazing. So, and it's also very scary. Like me doing this video, I'm a little bit scared to do it. So let's get the show on the road and let's see what's going to happen, right? Come on, let's go. All right, what's on the next slide? So this is going to be a combination of you watching me, and I'm going to throw up slides. It's going to help me stay on track, because otherwise I do know that I start to ramble off like almost like a senile university instructor. So I'm going to try not to do that. So to help you, I've created this 9-part video training series to help you, figure out how to train for a triathlon. Now, by watching these videos, you're going to learn how to choose the right race, when to train, what kind of workouts to do, how to structure your weeks, what type of gear you'll need for your training and race, and some key pointers for the swim, bike, and run. How does that sound? So if you stick with me for these videos, I think you're going to learn a great deal about what you should be doing for your first triathlon. For my first triathlon, I had none of this. It was so far back in the dinosaur ages, we didn't have this information, so it was all brand new. But if I had this, it'd be awesome. So I'm really hopeful that these videos will help you really prepare for your first triathlon. Okay, so you're probably wondering, okay, who is this guy in the glasses making a video? My name is Todd Malcolm, and like I said, I'm head coach at No Limits Triathlon. And what I do is I teach people the proper and most efficient ways to train so that they can complete a triathlon to the best of their ability. Now, I started, like I said, 25 years ago when I just did sprints. And I did sprints for the first couple of years, and I got hooked, and it was great. And then I moved on to the Olympic distance, and I liked that. Then I did a half Ironman, and then I did an Ironman, and then it was just awesome. So then I focused on doing Olympic distance and tried to do as well as I could at that. And it was a lot of fun. And then we had kids, and then I started up coaching. And now what I do is I focus on Ironmans. I love doing Ironmans, 7.3s or the full distance. It's really quite cool. So I get to travel around the world, helping people do their key race. And the fun thing is, for me, you know what? When I drink coffee, it's always in an Ironman mug. I've got so many Ironman mugs upstairs. It is driving my wife insane. But it's one of the deals that I have. If I do an Ironman, I got to buy a mug. And if one of my athletes does an Ironman that I don't have the mug for it, they have to give me a mug. So I have a ton of mugs, which is cool to me. Anyways, to get to an Ironman, is a long, long road. If you're watching this video, you just want to know, Todd, all I want to do is get across the line like a sprint or beginner triathlon, and that's totally cool. I mean, I was there too. But where you start, it's kind of, you never know where you're going to end up. And that's, for me, was the really magical part of triathlon, is that just this very small, humble beginnings of putting your feet into a pool. It's kind of neat to see where you're going to end up. The shirt I'm wearing here, this is from Hawaii. So I've been to Hawaii 5 or 6 times now. I'm planning to go back again this year and to do this race. It's fantastic. I love swimming in that ocean. So it's really cool. Maybe you'll get to join me one day at this race. And over the last 15 years, I've been coaching, and I've helped hundreds of people train and complete their triathlon, ranging from sprint to Ironman distance events. And it's something that I'm really passionate about and I really enjoy doing. Okay. Now, I just mentioned that I've coached athletes to complete a triathlon sprint to Ironman distances. So what does that mean? That means that if you're thinking about doing a triathlon, that means there's lots of different levels, right? So it's not all about the Ironman. I mean, some people think it is, and when you talk to people on the street, they go, "Oh, did you do the Ironman? You did a triathlon." So they kind of think it's just the Ironman, but it really isn't. There's so many different distances of triathlons you can do. And let me go over them right now. Now, as I go over these distances, I'm going to tell you the distances. Now, I'm based in Canada, so I'm going to keep the distances in metric. All right, so if you're in the US, you can do the conversion, okay? So first of all, how many different races are there? I'm going to put it down to about having 5 different distances. So the first one's called tri or mini distance. That's kind of the really smallest triathlon they have out there. And that's usually a 500-meter swim, 10 to 15 kilometer bike ride, and a 3K run. After that, we move up to a sprint distance. And this is where I started. It's a 750 swim, 20K bike, and then a 5K run. Moving up from there, we're into the Olympic distance. And yes, that means that's in the Olympics. If you watch the Olympics this summer, you probably watch some amazing races. And the distances for that, 1,500 swim, a 20-kilometer bike, and then a 10-kilometer run. The next step up from the Olympic is the half Ironman. It's also known as a 70.3 distance. And that's 1.9 kilometer swim, a 90K bike, and then a 21.1 kilometer run, which is a half marathon. The next step up from that is the full Ironman, which is a 3.8 kilometer swim, 180 kilometer bike, and then a 42.2 kilometer run, which is a full marathon. Now, I have a general coaching rule that most athletes should start with a sprint, right? So it doesn't matter if you sign up for an Ironman and you haven't done a triathlon yet, I would say, please start off with a sprint. You got to get your feet wet. You got to find out what this is all about. So we should all start with the sprint and then move on to the race distance that we prefer. So starting with a sprint is a really good idea. Training and racing triathlons can be difficult. It can be expensive and requires quite a bit of time to efficiently train. Now, starting with the sprint requires less time commitment and a minor investment in gear. In fact, you probably have everything you need right now to finish a sprint. Then, once you complete a sprint, you can ask yourself if you like it, and then if you get hooked on it like I did, then you can start your progression to bigger events. So for me, the natural progression, how I like to coach and how I did it as myself, is the sprint, or you can do the mini, then the sprint, and the Olympic, then the half, and then the full Ironman. Now, you don't need to do the full gamut of triathlons, but it really gets addicting, and you want to go, well, what happens if I go a little bit further? What does that next one feel like? So it's really, if your body can allow you to go bigger, it's kind of a cool, fun thing to try. Now, many people come to me and they ask me to train them for an Ironman. It could be a 70.3, which is a half Ironman, or the full distance. Now, this is on many people's bucket lists. Well, I still plan stepping stone events leading up to their key race. And yes, I still recommend a sprint, even if you're doing the Ironman for the first time. Now, I have had people they sign up for an Ironman, and that's all they want to do is Ironman. But I go, you know what? Let's get you into the sprint so you know what you're doing, so that when you do come to the Ironman, you're going to actually know what it feels like to do a triathlon. Otherwise, it's really, I think it's too much stress. Although I have been in races before, and you got to rack your bikes in transition. We'll talk about that later. But then I remember talking to someone, and he goes, "Hey, how many races have you done?" So I told him, I go, "Well, how many races have you done?" He goes, "This is my first one." I go, "Your first one's an Ironman?" He goes, "Yeah." So that was, some people do that, which is, I think, awesome and crazy at the same time. Now, before you start off on this amazing triathlon journey, I want to ask you a question. Why do you want to complete a triathlon? What is your why? It's very important to know what your why is. I'm going to tell you in a minute. Now, here are some of the answers I've heard over the years. Number one, they need a goal, right? So it gives you a focus and a purpose. Two, desire. Always wanted to do one. Three, to call yourself a triathlete or an Ironman. Number four, they lost a bet. Five, want to lose weight. Six, want to get in shape, look and feel better about yourself. Number seven, want to race for someone who is unable to race. Number eight, perhaps is just calling to you. Number nine, to be an example for the family and kids. The reason why I ask you to ask yourself, what is your why? Because training for a triathlon, like I said, can be challenging and hard. And you'll be out there some days and you're going to say, why the heck am I doing this? Why am I running? Why am I swimming? Why am I biking? And if you know why you're doing it, then you can kind of silence those voices in your head and you go, I'm doing this because of this. And then you just keep going. And so I highly recommend get out a notebook. If you don't have a notebook for a triathlon, like if you decide to do it, buy a training log. And one of the first things you can put down is why. Why, W-H-Y, question mark, and put down a sentence or two. This is why you're doing it. And then when you are, months or years into this, you can go back to that and you go, this is my why. Well, your why may change over the years, but I think it's important to acknowledge what that why is. Once you know your why and the distance of the race you want to target, it is now time to pick your race. This is a pretty cool part. Okay, there's lots of key factors in race selection. The first one, this is probably the most important one, is the date. So when is the race? For your first race, give yourself lots of time to train and prepare. I like having my athletes prepare 4 to 6 months in advance. You can sneak through a sprint with less than that, but generally, I like more time to effectively prepare for the race. And yes, I've known some people who've done zero training for a sprint triathlon and still cross the finish line. Now, if you're like me and live in a northern part of the world, date selection is very important as the temperature outside and lake temperature can vary lots from spring, summer to fall events. We generally do not have winter triathlons without skiing. Now, some races can be very hot. So you need to ask yourself, do you perform better in the hot or cool or cold conditions? So whichever one you prefer, then pick a triathlon in that date. Number two, pool versus open water. Will you select a race that takes place in a pool or open water? There's some pros for pool swimming. Pool swimming is going to be warmer water, usually, no wetsuit required, and you're able to complete earlier in the race season. Some cons for the pool swimming, you can have very crowded lanes with other athletes swimming at different speeds, and it can be a bit frustrating. But when I first started doing triathlons, probably for the first 2 or 3 years, all I did was pool swims, and that was it. I would only do 2 or 3 races a year, and they were all in a pool. It was easy for me to do that. I didn't have to buy the wetsuit. I didn't have to train in the lake. So it just kept it very easy. So pool swims is a really nice way to start your triathlon endeavor. If you choose open water means like swimming in a lake, an ocean, or a river. Some pros for open water swimming can be a wider swim start rather than a narrow pool, so you have more space to play with. It's generally more scenic than a pool, and usually a smaller number of loops. Here are some cons for open water swimming. First one, the water can be greatly affected by the weather, so it can be really hot, moderate, or cold. You can have waves in it, which can make it difficult. The sun may be in your eyes. Many people have a fear of open water swimming because of sharks. Even if they're in a lake, they think about Jaws. They got that music in the background, dun 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 dun. I think here comes a Jaws, or here comes a shark, and you're in a lake, and there's no, there's no sharks. But I do have some athletes that say, Todd, I'm never coming with you to Hawaii because they have sharks there. I'm like, okay, I think we can get over that, but some people won't do that. Another cons for open water swimming, you can swim off course. When you're in a pool, you have a lane rope to keep you straight and narrow. In open water, there's none of that. So you can go way off course. The water can be very cold. Up here in Canada, the lakes can be really cold. And you may need a wetsuit. Most of the races that we do here for open water, you need a wetsuit. Okay, the next factor in race selection could be course difficulty. So how hard is a race? Some courses are harder than others. For example, you can have some really hilly bikes, hilly runs, or multiple loops, or even off-road conditions. But what you can do is you can choose a course that fits your strength. For example, if you are a strong runner, you may want to choose a course that has a harder run. And similarly, if you are a strong biker, you may want to choose a harder bike. And if you are a weaker runner or weaker biker, try to pick flat courses so it's not going to be that hard on you. Or if you do not know your strengths, try to select a race that is beginner friendly and relatively easy. What I mean by beginner friendly is some races will actually say in their advertising, this race is really designed for beginners. And a lot of the more experienced racers will not go to that race just because they know that it's really not designed for experienced athletes. It's designed for beginners and first timers. So if you do want to have a race like that, ask the race organizer to send them an email, say, hey, what's the difficulty of this course like? And is it beginner friendly? And they'll let you know. Now it's time for you to go pick an event. So all you need to do is go online, type in your city, and type in triathlons. So I'm in Calgary, so I'll type in Calgary triathlons, and they'll all pop up. Then go check them out, and then register a race. Pick the distance you want, and commit. Put your name on the list, and away we go. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to determine when you're going to train. This is Coach Todd saying thank you very much, and happy training.